Okay. So let's focus on approach, right? Now, as I said, we as human beings, we are biased, right? I'll be honest, I am also biased, right? I am aware of my bias. I am aware that I am biased, but I still am biased, right? Again, this is something which you can always aim to minimize your bias, but you can never eradicate your bias, right? That's a very you're thinking too high of yourself, right? You can never eradicate your bias, but you can minimize your bias, right? So the question arises, if history is an interpretative subject, so then how exactly do I approach history, right? Because again, as I said, if you're an Indian, if you're reading Indian history, for you things, for you like India is awesome, right? India is like, wow, crazy. So you might tend to overlook the negative aspects of Indian civilization, right? We have a lot of negative things that plague Indian society, right? We have caste system. Mm. Then we also had a lot of people are under the impression that apparently there was no religious conflicts in India before like the Islamic invasions or something, which is not true. There was also tensions between Hindus and Buddhists, Hindus and Jains, Buddhists, Hindu, even sects within Hinduism were always, not always, but at times they found themselves in conflict with each other, right? Again, we're not here to learn about anything today. Today we are just going to focus on just the basics, right? Anyways, so yeah. So approach. Okay, let's accept the fact we are biased, right? Even your gender matters a lot. If you're a guy, for you, history, and let's be honest, most of history up until like the late 19th century, most of history was more or less patriarchal. What's patriarchal? Basically, male dominated, male dominated, right? Patriarchal society, right? Man matters, right? Uh, it's story of man, right? Men are at the focus, right? Until the late 19th century, history was mostly just patriarchal, right? From like patriarchal in the sense that we focus only on the male side of things, right? Now with recent changes, obviously things are changing. It's not perfect, but yeah, there's that. So okay, you're aware of your bias. How do I change it, right? How do I view history without, being very biased towards anything? And here's a very good trick that you can do, or here's a very good experiment you can do. Think of yourself as an alien. Think that you are an alien. So think of yourself as you're an alien and you're on a mission, right? So you belong from some another planet, right? A planet far away from Earth. You're an alien. You're not a human. You are not human, right? You're not a human. You're an alien. And your mission, so basically your whatever your commanders were, they sent you on a mission that go and learn Earth's history. Go and learn Earth's history. Right? This is what your commanders said. That hey alien, let's say your name is XAE 734 blah 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 at the rate Lord. Right? This is your name. So your name is this. Basically Elon Musk's son. Your mission is go and learn Earth's history, right? Now here's the thing. So you're an alien. So if an alien studies human history, he'll be like he won't have a bias, right? Because he doesn't like think of it this way. We as humans, we study the history of animals, right? I mean, not it's not exactly a very well documented history, but we study the animal kingdom, right? We study the past events of animal kingdom. We don't find biases in that. Obviously, everyone has preference, but uh, animals cannot write their own stories. So, uh, animal kingdom and the history of animals, it's not like it's never lion centered or tiger centered, right? We see them as we see them, right? We see them as observers, right? We have no emotions, no affiliations. We just okay, theek hai. There's this tiger and he apparently ate like a monkey or something, I don't know. There's no bias in this, right? Right. So exactly just like that, think of yourself as an alien. So whenever you're reading anything, now see, this is a very tough task, okay? Again, I said, if you're an Indian or like let's say you're a British, right, and you're reading history, obviously you will read it through your lens, right? You have a lens. That lens can be political, religious, cultural, even based on your gender. It might be, So this view, there is this very big lens, and then there is the events that unfolded, or at least the documentation of those events, right? So documentation of those events. This is you. This is your lens. Now here's the thing. As we all know, lens, they have a tendency to either, basically change the path of light. So it's either refracts or it, goes far away or it goes undeviated. Similarly, your lens, when you read something, the way you see the event depends on your lens. So, right, you will never see the event or the documentation of the event as it is. Never. You will have some different interpretation of that event, right? It's like a new for you. It's almost as if it was a new event, right? So yeah. So this is the problem with humans, right? We have a certain lens, right? So as I said, so the best way to obviously you cannot eradicate it, but the best way to minimize it is think of yourself as an alien. If you are reading a book of history, you should be like, okay, you know what? I am not a human. I am this alien guy, and I am learning history, right? Don't have any bias towards your country, religion, culture. It's hard, but you can at least practice, right? Similarly, don't be very emotional, right? See, you might believe something, that's that's fine. After reading history, if you believe something and okay, that might be subjective, but at least when you're reading the event, right? Please don't go read an event with a narrative. That's very important. A lot of people read history with a narrative. They already have some sort of conclusion in their head that, oh, we are the greatest civilization. And then they read history, and this is not good, right? So, what you're doing, you're reassuring yourself, right? You already came to a conclusion, and then you are reading something. Basically, it's called a confirmational bias, right? It's a term used in, I believe it's used in psychology. This confirmational bias, you already believe something, and then you read something. So, what's the point of reading, right? It doesn't make sense, right? So yeah, you can try this very simple exercise. Think of yourself, I'm an alien, start reading something, right? Yeah, after reading something you want to believe or you want to interpret things in a different way, okay, cool, do that. But at least while you're reading it, read it as an alien. Don't read it as an Indian or a man. Don't do that, right? Again, it's very hard, but try to minimize it, right? Okay, so there's that. Third thing, importance. Yeah, very important, very important. Importance, it's very important. Why bother learning history, right? Why? It's so boring, right? Now, obviously, our education system fucking sucks, right? I'm sorry for using profanities, but it sucks, right? Let Forget history, everything, science, maths, everything is taught in a very boring way. Now, here's a rule, okay? Anything which is printed in your textbook, you will hate it. It's guaranteed. I can write about the most beautiful concept, but if it's in a textbook, you are going to hate it. Absolutely despise it, right? So that's the first step. Never learn history from your textbooks. Never use textbooks, right? Because here's the thing, textbooks are boring, right? Most textbooks are very boring. So importance. Why should I bother learning history, right? History isn't going to pay my bills. And to be honest, it's true, right? The job opportunities in histories, they exist. But yeah, if you're focused on like money, not really, right? It doesn't really give you money. So why should I learn history if I don't want to? This is especially prevalent in Indians. They are of the opinion that anything that won't get me a job, I won't study it, right? If you're watching internationally from somewhere else, it's fine. But in India specifically, they're like, if this thing does not get me a job, I'm not studying it. To that I say, how do you know that your job is only influenced by this one subject, right? Your job is not influenced by only one subject. Sure, let's say you study computer science, right? But bro, only computer science is not going to get you a job. There are other things, like learning, just learning in general, reading, writing. Reading, writing doesn't come in computer science. It comes in, languages. Reading, writing, communication skills, creativity, right? Blah, 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 whatever it is. A lot of things, right? Computer science, okay, cool. There's a lot of money in it, but only computer science doesn't get you the job, right? Learning, reading, writing, communication skills, creativity, all these things matters. So why should I learn history? To that I say, Most political and cultural uh, events that we do in the present, right? They're a function of the past. I want to look cool by using some mathematical terms. So, yeah, everything that is happening right now, right? Everything that politically is happening in this country, culturally it is happening in this country, the way people think today, the way people speak today, everything is a function of the past. Every single thing. And past includes everything. It includes science, it includes chemistry, biology, and it includes political and human history. But focusing purely on political and human history, why does it matter? It matters a lot, right? The past is the reason that we are doing the things we are doing today, right? Partition happened in the past. That's the reason why we have India versus Pakistan cricket matches today, right? That's the reason why I'm speaking in English, right? If let's say in the 18th century, instead of the British, the French colonized India, right? Which, to be honest, they did have a few territories, but they didn't really colonize a lot of it. I'd be speaking in French, right? Also, just a fun fact: did you know that the Portuguese, right? The Portuguese have been in uh, Goa before the Mughal Empire even existed, before the Mughals. The Portuguese have been in Goa before the Mughals even existed in India, before they came in India, right? You can learn more about this. I don't know, it just seemed like a very fun fact, so I just said it. Yeah. So that's how long the Portuguese were in Goa. That's why in Goa today you see a very strong Christian culture and a very strong international culture, right? Everyone has been to Goa at some point. Yeah. So why bother learning history, right? Here's the thing: the way your family behaves today, the food that you eat, the language that you speak, right? The way people treat you in society, right? Preferences, right? So let's in Indian society, we have physical preferences. You have to be tall, fair skinned. You need to have like an MBA or a BTech degree, right? You need to be fluent in English, right? Shit like this, right? These preferences might have been different had the, let's say, I don't know, Africans colonized us, right? If the Africans colonized India, instead of fair, this preference would have been, dark, right? Instead of English, it would have been some other African language or some native language, right, of Africa. So your life, everything, most of things that you do today, history matters a lot, right? And that's why the why question, why is India the way it is? Why am I speaking English, right? Why do women prefer tall men, right? I'm going off topic, I'm sorry. But why? Right? And the answer is history. Simple. The answer is history. It's history, dude. Right? The reason you are pursuing an MBA right now and not an arts degree, the reason you're a BTech student, the reason you prefer to speak in English and not in, I don't know, Swahili, is because of the events of the past. Therefore, it becomes very crucial to realize that why am I living this lifestyle, right? History also another thing. It's fun. It's interesting. It's interesting as hell, right? Right. So the- basically, if you want to understand your present, you need to understand the past. Also, another thing, history is very cyclical, whatever the pronunciation is. History repeats itself. Everyone has heard of it. So yeah, generally, why you should bother reading history? First of all, it's interesting. So there's that. Another thing, you can predict future. Okay, this is a bit misleading, but if you learn about history, you will understand the present more effectively, right? Your understanding of the present will be much, much more rational and much, much more clear than in the past, right? Also, another thing, history doesn't have to be only political. It can be scientific history. It can be biological history, right? And basically, that's what they teach you, right? What do you learn in physics? You learn the history of physics. What do you learn in biology? And the history of it. So history is a very inclusive subject, right? So in Gen Z term, it's basically lore, right? It's lore. And you need to learn lore, right? Lore is important to exist in today's world, right? If you don't know anything about the past, what are you going to do in the future, right? Yeah, that's the basic. It's very interesting. And you can, it's very applicable in daily life. Job opportunities, okay, that's a different thing. But you can always, learn history. That's the importance of it, right? Now, why should I learn? I talked about importance, but why should I learn history? Here's the thing: the more you read about people, the more you read about the whole world, your opinion changes from regional to global. When you learn about world history, your perspective changes. Now you're not seeing things as an Indian, you're seeing things as a human, right? It's a double-edged sword. Sometimes, if you already have some narrative in your head, then you'll become a bigger extremist. Here's the thing. Let's take the example of a very famous Austrian painter we all know, right? If he had not read history in the way that he did and interpreted it, maybe today we would have a very different world, right? So, history is very crucial, right? Why was this very famous Austrian painter? Why did he have some extreme views? Because he had some confirmational bias, and to reassure that bias, this guy read, he read about the past, or at least he thought, or at least he interpreted the past in a certain way, and that led to real effects, right? A lot of people went to war. Eventually, they lost. I'm not sure if I can say the word on YouTube, but you know what happened, right? The whole world changed, right? That's why it's very important to teach history. It's very important to teach history. The way history is taught, it affects everything. Here's the thing. This is you. You are bounded to a lot of people. You are bounded to your mom, your dad, your girlfriend, your other girlfriend, assuming you have one, and a lot of other people. Now, here's the thing. If your mom is, let's say, Hindu, you are a Hindu, right? If your dad is a Britisher, well, you will have a British perspective, right? You will be British by culture, right? If a girlfriend is, I don't know, Asian, now you will be introduced to Asian culture. You will eat Chinese food, you will eat Japanese food, right? So, a lot of the things that you do in life, you do it because you're related to other people. I'm studying right now, right? Why am I doing it? Because, well, my parents tell me to study, right? They're like, you should get an education, right? Why am I eating Indian food, right? Why do I learn Indian language, right? Because my parents are Indian. Simple as that. We are bounded by other people, and other people are also bounded to various other events, right? As I said, today I'm in India and I'm not in Pakistan. Why? Because, well, there was this one, some ancestors 100, 70, 80 years ago. He decided that I'll stay on this side of the border and not there. That's why today my name is Bhargav and not, I don't know, something else. Bismillah. Right? That's the reason why that's the reason why I speak in Hindi and English today. Had this ancestor of mine crossed the border, I would follow a different religion and my name would be different. The way I would talk would be different. My whole perspective of the world would be different. My quality of life would be different. So, history, we are bounded by a lot of people, right? And those people are bounded by history, right? So, it becomes very important to learn history because it makes you realize what exactly are you doing, right? Why am I doing the things I'm doing, right? So, yeah, that's basically this is the introduction of history, right? So, overall, to give a summary, what is history? It's already a very long lecture, but to give you a summary, history is basically you plot events on a timeline, right? You plots event on a timeline to get a general understanding of what the world was before you. This is you, and this is the world before you. And you to get a general understanding of what the world was before you, you study history, right? Second, uh, global perspective, right? Global perspective, global view, right? You learn history, you become more international, right? Number three, why? Why am I suffering? Why am I poor? Why do I speak in English? Why am I pursuing this degree? Everything, most of those things, they're answered when you learn history. Why do I hate others and why do I like some other people? Those are the main three things. Also, fourth thing and the most important, interesting, very interesting. It's a very interesting subject, right? At least to me it is. So yeah, that's the general. Conclude this lecture now. That's the general introduction of history. That's we talked about introduction. A little bit of its past and how things affect and everything. So yeah, that's basically the yeah, that's what we talked about in this lecture. From the future lectures, we'll discuss about more exact events and stuff like that. So yeah, this is it for this lecture. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next.